Hello, this is an Astroneer experiment video where I try out an idea and see what happens. Today we're going to figure out if you can fall through a planet. First off, this video contains spoilers about what happens if you dig down really far. So if you haven't played the game yet, I would suggest stopping the video here. Now that the spoiler warning is out of the way, the first step is to dig down to the core of the planet and figure out how gravity works. There are two general possibilities of how gravity works. The first is that we maintain a consistent gravity until we start interacting with an object. So what that means is, if that's the case, we can fall through the planet because we will have consistent gravity, and even on the other side of the planet should be falling basically upwards after we go through the center. The other possible way gravity works is to continuously update the gravity around the Astroneer regardless of surroundings. This means that once we fall through the center of the planet, the gravity will flip and then we'll be pulled back towards the center again. We do reach terminal velocity while falling to the center, so we wouldn't reach the other side if that was the case. There is the fact that from the surface upwards, gravity doesn't change until you hit the height limit. So there could be some interesting effects of gravity near the center that we can take advantage of to actually fall through and keep our gravity trajectory in the right direction. So the first step is to activate a node on the surface to open up the center so we could actually fall through the direct center of the planet. So I went back to the surface and activated a node and then went back down to run some tests. So here is the first attempt to drop through the center of the planet. As you can see, there's a bit of difficulty because the hole isn't big enough, but we do manage to eventually get down to the center and angle ourselves so we fall through the center. It's kind of hard to notice here, but there does seem to be some drag as we're falling through the center. So that didn't work. We stopped in the middle. And then we tried again with launching ourselves downward. And again, once the gravity shifts, we stop. Since gravity changes when you enter the sphere, maybe we couldn't go directly through the sphere, but maybe we could go slightly around it. So I tried that, pushing myself slightly around it, but again, you slow down quite considerably as you go through. And a second attempt at that, again, you slow down quite considerably before you go through. This pretty much disproves that you can fall through the core right here, but I wanted to try something else. If you miss the actual core itself entirely, go actually around it so you don't have any of that slowdown effect. You might be able to fall basically near the core, but not directly through it. So I went ahead and made my hole much bigger so that I could fall through it easier, set up some detonations, blew a bunch of stuff up, and eventually got the hole all the way down to the core, but this time much bigger. That last explosion had a lot of quartz in it, and you can see the giant amount of quartz just spilling out there. So then I tried jumping down again, and you do reach a terminal velocity, so there's really no way this was going to succeed, but again, landed in the center. The next step was to try and make a hole around the entire core. So just make a line, blow up a line to the point where I could fall around the core without reaching the inner sphere. So I started detonating that, here's me blowing up a giant vein of astronium. It just spreads out everywhere. And eventually it was time to jump around the core again. So I've made a large hole, and we're falling through here. And as we get to this point, you can see the hole start to appear, and I'm trying to go sideways, but what's happening is I'm slowing down considerably, and the gravity is changing direction. So unfortunately, it looks like the gravity does change direction around the core relative to your Astroneer. It's not just when you interact with stuff. So this basically puts the nail in the coffin of falling through a planet. Any information, even failed experiments, is useful when you're trying to figure out how stuff works. So while we couldn't fall through the core, this does give you an idea of how the gravity works. And I think that's some useful information. So that was my attempt to fall through the core. Thank you for watching.